Okay, so my name's Jonathan. I created Breaking the Boy Code several years ago. I created Breaking the Boy Code basically because I started looking into podcasts, and and I work on masculinity. I work with young people and that kind of thing. But I started looking into podcasts, and I found these different projects that were talking about masculinity, talking about mental health, but it really didn't seem like anybody was talking with boys themselves. And so that's where this project originated. It's about centering boys' perspectives. It's about amplifying youth voices and ensuring that within the conversation of gender justice, cultural shift, mental health, all this kind of thing, that we're engaging with those who actually have the highest stakes and the biggest role to play, which is the next generation. So that's what brought us closer in touch with Next Gen Men and what's become the Next Gen Men podcast network. And Next Gen Men is a large part of how we've been able to sustain this project to a fourth season, bring it to where we are now. And also a really big part is Tyrone and the help that we've gotten from Focus Media Arts Center in Toronto and Radio Regent online. And then the last piece to the puzzle, obviously, is this group of young boys whose voices that you're going to shortly be hearing.
Alright, so with that, I'll introduce myself first. My name is Adrian Leckie, and I'm a volunteer at Next Gen Men. And this season, we're excited to focus on the voices of BIPOC boys in a series of episodes to explore race and gender as they intersect with mental health, relationships, education, and more. We'll be exploring the experiences and insights of BIPOC boys in the Regent Park area. And within this experience, we're going to be learning their insights and deepening our conversation on racism in Canada. Our episodes will consist of a mix of discussions and facilitated activities to spark the thought of our amazing participants in different themes and ideas. And in the end, we're hoping to have a mosaic of lessons, reflections, and best practices for our listeners to be able to learn and grow from. So with that, we have 5 of our amazing youth partners here. So at the count of 5, everyone, we're going to say hi. You ready? In 5,
right,
4, 3, 2, 1.
Hi!
Hey.
What's up?
So with that, we're going to allow you to have the space to introduce yourselves. So you're going to do your name, pronoun, how you identify, and what made you interested in joining this season. And your age.
Okay, so my name is Betsael, aka Betsa. I'm an African Canadian. What brought me to this podcast was that I never been to a podcast before, so I thought this experience would be very cool. And also, you could use this podcast as to create more opportunities for yourself, and also it will make me better, like a communicator. And I also just enjoyed doing it. I was so excited. So yeah, and I also like playing basketball. I just wanted to say that because so.
Hello, my name is Sadiq. I'm 12 years old and I'm also an African Canadian. I wanted to come here to Next Gen Men because I've never been in a podcast before, and I think it'd be a really good experience for me. I like to try new things, and I think I'd learn a lot from this podcast, and others will learn a lot as well.
Hi, my name's Joel. I'm 13. I'm African Canadian as well, and what brought me here was that it's an all around good thing. It's like gives you experience with the job, talk about important things, save up some money to get something. It's an all around great thing, and I just want to be in a podcast because they're fun.
My name's Kamari. I am 13 years old. I go to Lord Dufferin Public School. I really wanted to join this podcast because it could just help with my public speaking, and I could communicate better with people. And I really want to save up for some nice ball kicks, and I really like what this podcast is doing for people.
Hello, my name is Akshan, and I'm 13 years old, studying at Lord Dufferin Public School. The reason why I wanted to participate in this podcast was because I just want to send a message to everybody, and I just want to, be in the experience of talking in a podcast.
Awesome. Cool. Test. Here we go. Okay, so we have Betsa, who's going to be the number 1 draft pick in the NBA, give it a couple of years. Mm-hmm. We have Sadiq, who's the youngest. In our group, we have Yoel, who's an older brother, Kamari, who has beautiful hair, and Akshayan, who's sitting right beside me and has his ear pierced. This is just stuff that I thought I'd add. I don't really know why, so it came to mind. But this is our group that we're going to talk through some of these topics with. So we're going to get started, and like I mentioned, I guess probably an hour ago at this point, the first thing that we're going to do is called the man box. And yeah, so I'm going to start with a bit of like a visualization. So I guess first of all, picture like a box, okay? And I was gonna draw it, but I decided, you know what? Like even if I drew it, the people listening to this wouldn't be able to see. So just picture a box, okay? And this box is meant to be a visualization of the stereotypes and expectations for boys and young men in our culture, okay? And essentially, if you think about like the phrase "be a man," you know, or "man up," that's a loaded phrase. But actually, tell me, have you guys heard that phrase before?
Yes. All the time.
All the time. Every single time. If you cry, they'll be like, yo, man up.
Right. Yeah, actually, so give me a couple of examples of a time when you'd hear the phrase. Go for it.
So, like, if I was, like, upset and, like, over, like, a pitiful thing, it was, like, somebody would tell me to man up about it, when it's, like, I should be able to have feelings about it, too. And, like, I should be able to express it.
Nice, legit. Another one?
For example, if I got hurt, and then after, like, someone would tell me, man up, it's fine. So it's like a little scratch, or like, yeah, I can't express my feelings, I can't let it out. Yeah.
When I heard the term man up, it was when I used to be young. I used to cry all the time. For no reason or something like that. When I was in kindergarten, I used to cry because my mom left me, and they'll be like, yo, man up, man up. Mm-hmm. So I just stuck with it, and I started manning up.
Yeah. No, totally. So, did you... All right, okay, go for it. Yeah, I mean, so we hear this phrase from kindergarten. We hear it even younger than that, right? And it goes throughout our lives, and it impacts us in different ways. And, like, one for me is, I was just saying to somebody last night, I got told I was standing like a girl once. Like, I was standing like I wasn't manly. And so it's the way you dress, it's like all kinds of different things. Yeah, you kind of get it. It was basically something like that. So essentially, if we think about this box, we think about all of those lessons and rules that we get told, we're building barriers around the way that we can be and the way that we can't. And so what we're going to do to start with is just sort of explore what goes inside that box and what doesn't. Yeah. Anything to add? Okay, so I'm going to pass it to you, Adrian. You can share the first question.
All right, so the first question that we had was, how are boys expected to look and dress? So from our first group, does anyone want to share some things that came up in our conversation?
People think boys should be like short hair, tall, they can't have like tight clothing on, they gotta have like a little bit like baggy clothing on. They can't like be wearing like backpacks, like unicorn backpacks. They can't have like purses. They gotta have like a manly backpack, like something from Nike, or like some like expensive or like popular clothing brand, or like anything like that.
So some people think that men can't wear like pink, and like they have to wear tank tops, at least like suits, and they can't wear anything that's like girl made, or like, you know, anything that's purple, pink, something that's very bright, something that's tight, something that's like not manly. Yeah.
So let's do the second group.
Okay, so for us, they said, what do people like us that look like us wear? And we all as a group put Jordan. We wear Jordan like shoes or Jordan shirts, and then we wear Nike Tech Fleece, like the tracksuit. Some people wear Puma, some people wear Reebok, and some people wear Skechers.
So basically, they just want us to be like classic boys.
Cool.
People think that we have to like wear stuff that is not for us, like that we can't wear stuff that are colorful and like stuff that are meant for girls. But if you want to wear what you want to wear and stuff like that, that should be okay.
We just gotta like be like a man by the clothes we wear. So yeah.
Nice. I'm gonna go on the microphone here and say, so it seemed to me like those were pretty similar. Each group was pretty similar with like the Nike, the athletic wear, not girly stuff, all that kind of thing. Do we agree that they're kind of similar?
Yeah, because
Okay.
that's what like boys like us wear or something.
Yeah. Okay, so let's jump right to the next question, and just see if that's where things possibly start to shift. So the next question was more about like activities or interests. So what are when people look like at boys, what are they expecting them to be into? And then we'll move to the next group. Well, we'll get to that. So Sadiq, you want to go for it?
Yeah. So, well, when people look at boys, they think they're supposed to play basketball, play like sports, and play stuff that girls don't really play. They have to play athletic stuff, and yeah.
Yeah, boys, like what like Sadiq said, they gotta play sports, things like that. Things they can't play are like gymnastics or ballet because people think it's only for girls.
Cool. And then if we think about boys who look like you, is there anything else that comes up?
For us, we put like the same thing as Sadiq and Yoel said. We put people like us play basketball, and they play like sports that are physical and things like that.
They would expect us to play football, basketball, or sports that are meant for men, but we can't play any like maybe hopscotch, jump rope, or anything like that isn't that much physical, or something that you can't be like something that you have to have a lot of manpower to do, or you have to have a lot of agility or something like that.
We just gotta play like manly sports. So like that means we have to be strong, hardworking. But like when you think about it, let's say if you're going outside just walking, people will think that you're not hardworking by the way you look, the way you act, the way you do anything.
Cool. Yeah. So again, I'm not seeing that many differences between each group. They're really similar. So the expectations for the way that we dress, the way that we, like the things that we're into and the things that like the activities that we like to do, those are pretty similar. The next question was, and this is where I think things might start to shift, but I guess we'll see. Well, maybe not. So the next question was, what feelings and emotions are boys supposed to have? So how are boys supposed to express their feelings? And we'll start with, I guess we'll start with the first group. So Yoel, take it away.
Boys are supposed to feel like they can't feel weak, they can't cry, can't express their emotions, gotta keep it bottled up inside. Yeah, stuff like that.
Anything to add?
Boys are supposed to like be like strong, athletic, and like they can't, just like what you all said, they can't cry. Because if you cry, people think that like you're weak, you're not a man, you're not manning up.
They're supposed to be strong and like man up. They're supposed to be tough, and they can't get like emotional and things like that.
It's a lot similar to the other group. We had like the same ideas. So like Betsy said, being strong. So being a man up boy, and you can't have emotions.
They expect us to not express the emotions that we're allowed to have, and that we're told to man up at a young age, and that we always should never express ourselves properly like other people.
So the next question we're going out for you all is, how are boys supposed to act around others?
Sadiq.
So if a boy is around a woman, they have to act like a gentleman and like carry her bags to her car if she wants to. So I think that men, like if they're around women, they have to act like gentlemen. They have to act really nice. They have to like take her groceries to her car and stuff. But if they're like around other men, they have to act strong so that the other men will think that they're really strong and they're not weak, and yeah, they're manly.
Anything to add, y'all?
Yeah, like Sadiq said, like if you're around a certain group of people, like if you're your friends and you're a guy or like a man, like you can act however you want. I don't think anyone will really judge you, but like when you're with strangers, you gotta like act like a man, like a grown up. Like you can't be fooling around, you can't be foolish. And when you're with your women, you have to be like a gentleman, help them with their bags, things like that. Like don't let them carry anything, drop them home, things like that. Yeah, pretty much that's it.
Overall, basically, we're just like bad people.
Because of our skin color.
And they also think that we have to treat the women the best because we are gentlemen and that we probably should. But if we do something bad to the woman, we are called woman beaters or something, or like that we did something wrong and then we're not loyal and stuff.
Yeah. So I mean, we've had a lot of really similar answers, but kind of all of a sudden we're like taking a bit of like a fork in the road here. Because we could say for white boys, for white young men, or just like when we think about boyhood or manhood in general, that's where we heard like gentlemen, or, respectful and that kind of thing, and that like chivalry kind of attitude. And then when we think about the way people look at BIPOC boys, there's this like kind of like underlying current of violence within their expectations. So that's where we had the language of like woman beater, not loyal, all that kind of thing. Does anybody have any like observations or thoughts on that? Where do you think that comes from? What impact do you think that has? Yeah, go for it.
It comes from just by limited experiences. So let's say one person did something to a woman, the news would just get exploded all over the world, and then people will go like, oh, boys are like that. Oh, boys should act like gentlemen because of the issue.
They basically like stereotype us, like just because they seen a person that did it to a woman, they'll base it off of everyone, and they'll go off of that, and they'll say, and they'll think that people like BIPOC people will be woman beaters and things like that because they seen someone did it.
They'll just keep the mindset.
Yeah.
If they see somebody like me doing like hurting a woman, they'll think of people like me, that every person does it.
Adrian, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I think one thing that I appreciate everyone's honesty here is being able to think about like how things spread, but also the misconceptions that are out there as well. And sometimes I think one common thread that you've all mentioned is like if someone sees someone do something, it spreads. But it's also thinking about the idea of sometimes people don't see these things. Sometimes there are these beliefs and thoughts that have been existing for years, decades even. And these are burdens that are all of you kind of like hold on to, and other people sort of see these misconceptions of how boys are that they don't actually see or haven't seen or you're not responsible for, but they put it on you as well. And it's important for us to be very mindful of that. So I think that your observations are very, very powerful, and it's upsetting to be able to have to walk into a potential relationship with someone with the burdens that you haven't done anything, or folks around you haven't done anything, folks that are having these perceptions of you haven't seen these things, but they're beliefs that have carried over through misconceptions and stereotypes that aren't fair for folks of color to have to go through in navigating the world. So those are a few things that come to mind for me.
So like people don't they don't have a better understanding when they hear news like we were just talking about. So like if I were a girl, I would like think that okay, it happened to one person, but it won't like I won't expect that other boys will do the same. They'll like be different, and they'll be the way we want boys to be. Yeah.
So basically, if a man does something like wrong, something sexually to a woman, and like the news spreads, some people might think, oh, so all men are like this. Because the news spreads all over the world and stuff, and lots of people believe that all men are like this for some reason. Yeah.
And people should stop like keeping that mindset, cause it's not like it affects other boys hearing those kind of news. And when I heard about news like this, I was like, no, the world is changing a lot.
And it's not fair too, because like when they base someone off, other men haven't done nothing wrong, but they assume that just because that one person did something, that guy might do something as well. And that's what needs to stop.
Yeah, and one thing that I want to observe is that this, I mean, happens in a lot of ways, but I do want to kind of like, I guess like, acknowledge that this happens in a different way for boys and men of color than it does for white guys. And so I looked up a Wikipedia article on Adrian's iPhone, and can somebody read, it's like the first two sentences. Pass it to you all.
Emmett Lewis till July 25, 1941 to August 28, 1955 was a 14-year-old African American who was being lynched in Mississippi in 1955 after being accused of offending a white woman in her family's grocery store. The brutality of his murder and the fact that his killers were acquitted drew attention to the long history of violent persecutions of African Americans in the United States.
Thank you, Yoel. So the name Emmett Till kind of came to mind for me when Adrian was talking about how we like carry this legacy that's gone on for decades or centuries. So he was just a little bit older than you guys, and the justification for his murder was that he had, offended a white woman. And so that's, I guess like that's the legacy that came to mind for me. Does anybody have any thoughts on
And
that?
like
That's a lot to just like lay on you. So if you're like kind of a little bit blown away by that, then no worries. But that's that like powerful history of racist violence is what kind of came to mind for me. Kamari?
A lot of people feel uncomfortable if women don't like respect them because of what somebody else did. So they'll feel uncomfortable with themselves, not wanting to be like around no more, causing suicides and like just like depression and stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay, let's do the last question, which is another really, really interesting one. So the question is, what do people think? What do people see or think when they look at boys? Or what do people see or think when they look at boys who look like you? So let's start with just the general. Yoel or Sadiq, some of what came up in your conversation?
People could think of them like people like us. They would think of them as a burglar or like a thief because we're black, and like people always think that only black people rob, kill people, things like that, or gang members.
They think that people like us are thugs and like what you all said, thieves and robbers, and they also generalizing. And I want to give it to Akshay because they think that all brown kids are Indian, but like in other case that's not it because Akshay is from South Asia, right? And
Sri Lanka.
And people could just walk up and ask him if he's Indian, but that may be offensive to you, but you could take it as another term. But
So I had an experience where people assumed me as an Indian, and I was like, no, I'm Sri Lankan. And then I had another time a kid come to me, and then he said, are you Muslim? Because you look like one. And I was like, no, I'm not Muslim. I'm a Hindu person. So like those kind of things are like that affects me a lot because nobody knows about people in Sri Lanka, and it's it's heartbreaking news.
Anything else that we wrote down here? Yeah, there's a couple more powerful ones here. I'll read a couple that came up in our conversation about the way that boys think of the way that people think of boys who look like you. So there was.
Oh.
Come on, do you want to jump in?
That we can't swim.
Yeah, that was an interesting one. That came from Betsa.
Yeah, and also they think that we're not disciplined as well, and they think that we're bad kids, and they think that like we're angry or something. That came from Kamari and things like that.
And that we're medicine, and that like we will just like randomly walk up to somebody and try to hurt them emotionally and physically, or just try to be rude to somebody.
I saw this on a video. I'm not 100% if it's true, but people think Minecraft is racist because I forgot what it was called. The
Enderman.
Yeah, Enderman. They were tall, black, fast, and couldn't swim.
Oh,
Yes, that's a stereotype.
That's
That's like we
crazy.
just mentioned, and they said black people can't swim, black people play basketball. Like we all said, yeah, that's.
And apparently that all black people have to be athletic or they're very good at basketball.
Some people suck at
Yeah,
basketball.
I was
sorry,
so-
I'm sorry, but some people suck at basketball.
Look at me.
I suck at basketball. What's going on?
Okay, any other observations about do you think there's a significant difference between how people look at boys in general and how people look at boys of color? Any other thoughts on that?
Definitely.
a big difference.
There's a big difference.
Because
yeah.
they have more to go off of if I'm black than if like I'm just a boy. You know, if I'm black and a boy, they have a lot more to go off of. Like I can't swim, I play basketball, I'm very athletic. But if I'm just like a boy, they think it's just like technically the girl thing, like how we can't dress as girls, stuff like that. But though all the things that go for boys apply to the other category.
But it just adds on if you're black.
Yes.
And it's more.
And like some people assume that Asians should get straight A's. They're like the toppest in the class. They should have good behavior. It's like when I hear those things, it's like it's not true, cause I know some people that aren't like, I'm not saying they're not smart, but like they just don't want to be known as a smart kid, and they just want to be known as a
normal kid.
Yeah, so like a person who plays basketball.
And that could also put like a lot of pressure to a person, because if you see like an Asian kid is like so smart and they make straight A's, what happens if they get a B? People are gonna say like, oh, I thought you're supposed to get straight A's, and they could tick them off or something.
It's a lot to live up to if you keep on having to do it consistently, and yeah.
And like sometimes if you're Asian, when you talk about Asian people, they might think they're talking about like Korean people, Japanese people, Chinese people. They might not think about the Middle East people, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, India, those types, because all those countries are in Asia as well.
True.
Yeah.
Did you have something you were gonna say?
That was
You
a
forgot.
good one, City.
It's just the way the people look like. So let's say there's let's take me as an example. I walk into the street and I have a friend who looks Chinese, but he's not. He's Korean. So like people will go up to him and up to me that, oh yeah, you're Korean and I'm Indian, and from that experience it's like, what would I say? It's like
You're not from the same continent.
yeah, cause it's basically like a separation in people of color, and there should be a big stop in those kind of issues, and just gotta treat people the same way, not by their color, but like humans are humans. That's all it is.
Yeah, treat people as you want to be treated yourself. If you don't want someone to come and say and like stereotype you, don't do that to other people.
Just by the person looks like so Betzel, let's say okay, he's dark brown skin. So like you can't just like stereotype him because of his color. Like you can stereotyping in some ways it's a lot bad.
And you should never judge a book by its cover, because if you keep on doing that, then you won't really get to know the person. And yeah.
And you guys will start off on bad terms too if you judge it by its cover.
Honestly, there shouldn't be like a rule like black people should be like treated poorly while white people should be treated fairly.
Yeah.
Honestly, that mess ups the whole world.
Like the Jim Crow rule in the USA.
And then the Colin Black and White, where it talked about his braids. Like it was a white coach.
That show was nice.
Yeah, and then the mom was like, "Do you think your coach would like that?" And then he couldn't be on the team because of his braids. And they're saying when he had the braids, it makes him play bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
And his mom screamed it on the table that he looks like a thug.
Yeah, like there's a difference between like if you're like a white male, it might be like a little better. But when you're a black male, it's kind of different. Cause like I remember I heard a story once where there's a white guy that went to jail, but they took him to McDonald's before he went. Like there was no execution or anything. I think it was his first time going to jail. No execution, no anything. He just went straight to jail. But they got him McDonald's before that. But then there's like this little 10-year-old, 11-year-olds getting arrested for walking on the street.
Yeah, and I also see like on Instagram there's like a white person that kills people and they don't get sentenced as much as a person that like just stole candy or something. I seen it up on Instagram before. And, like it's just like they give privilege to the white people instead of like BIPOC people.
Yeah, and privilege shouldn't be a thing because it just basically affects other people's minds that I'm just a useless man in this world. There's no need for me to live in this world, and that's why you also 75%. What's it? 75?
Suicide.
75%
Suicide rates.
Yeah, suicide rates on men. So
yeah, we should all be treated equally.
And there should be no hate in color.
Cool. Yeah, thank you for sharing all of that. I think the final thing that what do I want to do to close here? I think let's close with I guess like try to come up with one impact. So you guys have talked about a whole bunch of them have come up, but I think to sort of like lay out like why does this matter? Try to think of one impact, whether it's a personal impact, a societal impact, of how stereotypes basically impact guys like you or our society at large. And so we'll just do each person will have like one kind of final kind of like this is why this matters, and then we'll do kind of like a final thing.
I think stereotype could make a big impact on a person, because if they hear like for example black people can't swim, they'll start to go off of that and they will try not to like persevere and learn how to swim and things like that, and they'll try not to like I forgot what I was gonna say.
There should be like no microaggression in people just by a stereotype.
If Caucasian people have more privilege than people of color, it'll not be so diverse in the world, and then it'll like start just like the Black Lives Matter protest. A lot went wrong. There was a lot of like stuff that could have been better if it was more diverse and like less people getting hurt. and less violence.
So thank you for joining us for the first episode of this season. Our project for season 4 of exploring the intersection of race and masculinity, deeply engaging boys themselves in this conversation, is at the heart of what Next Gen Men does in our overall mission for building a future in which boys and men experience less pain and cause less harm. This work is made possible by listeners just like you, who contribute $5, $10 a month to Next Gen Men at nextgenmen.ca/join. Okay, so signing off, this is Jonathan.
This is Adrian.
This is Betsa the Goat, aka the real Goat, aka the King, aka future #1 pick NBA draft.
This is Sadiq. This is Akshan.
This is Kamari. If anybody says it's the real GOAT, it's actually me, the real GOAT.
Signing off, this is Yoel.
And that's the end of Breaking the Boy Code. And what we want you to know is...
This should be a diverse world and equality matters.
And there should be no hate against BIPOC people and BIPOC youth.
And everyone should enjoy their life.
and be treated equally.
See ya.
Bye.
Peace out.
Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And when you do subscribe, hit the little notification bell so you never miss out on any of our content. If you'd also like more, you can find us on our other social media platforms. And if you want even more, you can look at our website.
You